Paddy Keenan was a founder member of the Bothy Band, the supergroup that shook the shackles of conformity and liberated Irish traditional music for a new generation. His driving, highly rhythmic and colourful style was influenced by the traveller Johnny Doran, but individualised by Paddy within the traveller style of piping. Paddy has forged a highly successful solo career since the break-up of the Bothys and is in high demand globally. He tours regularly on every continent. His pioneering solo work and major collaborative projects earned him the T.G. Ceathair Gradam Ceoil Traditional Musician of the Year award in 2002.
Well, it started in Ballyfermot. We moved into a house I think I was about 6 or 7 years old. My dad played a lot of instruments, most instruments like fiddle, flute, pipes, and banjo. When I was I'd say about maybe 8 or 9 years old, my dad and Ted Furey were great friends, and they'd be out fishing most of the time. And one day he came back from the fishing and I had his pipes on me. I didn't want him to see me with his pipes on me, like. But at the same time he saw them, and whatever noise I was making anyway, I became the piper. As they call it, designated piper. I was the one my dad chose. First of all though, my brother taught me to whistle.
Johnny?
Johnny, yeah. Johnny had me play the whistle, and I was playing the whistle before that. So I had some idea, and watching my dad, of course, I'd have had an idea of how to work the pipes, if you like.
Finbar Furey grew up in the same travelling piping world as Paddy Keenan, at one point even living with the Keenan family, playing alongside Paddy under the watchful eye of Paddy's father, John.
Then Finbar, of course, came to live with us. He stayed with the family, as a sibling there now.
Mary Keenan, Paddy's mother, was an amazing lady. She treated me like one of her own sons, you know.
Finbar would have learned stuff from my dad as a kid.
Johnny would only tell you once or twice, you know. You had to do it, you know. And Paddy, he was a born piper, simple as that, you know.
I started this double B thing. I don't mean I started it, but I was playing it then. I started there in the house. And I was playing away. But Finbar, I remember him saying, I'm going to do that, I'm going to get that, I'm going to practice it. And the way he'd said, I'm going to eat it. My dad never brought me out to play. Maybe once with Finbar, we went to a carnival or something where we got paid to play, or a circus or something. But the Pipers Club, he wouldn't bring me in there at all. For his own reason, I don't know why.
The
But
first time I heard Paddy playing in public was a new building on the canal. And they'd built it just off Bagot Street there, if you were coming up to it was on the right. And Paddy was about 14 now, you know, and it was his gig. Johnny was playing with him, you know. And I went to see him, and I just said to myself, wow, you know, when he just hit them pipes, the place erupted, you know. He was absolutely magic, and he still is, you know.
From those early days in Ballyfermot and on the road, their families swapped tunes, stories and hard-won experiences, binding them together like brothers.
But we kept very close, you know, as friends growing up, and, you know, he's more like a brother to me now vice versa.
Paddy and Finbar are kindred spirits, free spirits.
Myself and Paddy now, if we play together, you know, the two of us, the crack is 90. I mean, we'd be cracked up laughing because I'd be doing something and he'd say, how'd you do that? And I'd say, you know, and he'd do something, say, where'd you do, all of this, you know.
Back in the 60s, good sets of uilleann pipes were a rarity, and certainly rarely seen for sale in shops. Back then, finding a working set of uilleann pipes was almost as difficult as learning to play them. Instruments made by pipe makers such as John Clark and Leo Rowsome became precious currency in the tradition, guarded, borrowed and shared because their scarcity made them as valuable as the music they created. Paddy recalls going with his father, John, to get a Crowley set of pipes from Gareth the Broon.
my dad actually brought them over. He got them in the shop in Capel Street. Gareth the Broon owned the pipes.
Oh.
the Guinness lad.
Right. Yeah, I know. I knew Gareth.
Yeah, and they were in his in Cladda, the shop there, and I spotted him, and I said to him, "There's a set of pipes hanging on the wall in there," and he said, "Well, let's go and see them." And I put them on, and I was blowing them, and they were all out of tune, man. The reeds were rusty and melted, they weren't playing good at all. So my dad asked about price, and the guy said something like 60. I don't know if the guy said £60, the shopkeeper, or my dad offered. I had to rouse himself for 4 years, and then this set came about. I think it was 16 at the time. He called the owner. We didn't know who the owner was, but it happened to be Gareth in the end. And my dad came in the next morning. He said, "I'll come in the morning," he said, "and see if you can contact the owner." So we went in the next morning, and the guy's on the phone talking to Gareth the Brew. And he's saying, "There's a man here, he wants to buy the pipes." And of course, Gareth said, "They're not for sale, they're just, part of the shop." And like hanging on the wall. But they weren't for sale. My dad goes up and whispers into your man's ear and tells him there's a deposit on them. And that happened anyway. And he said, "Well, does he play them?" I can imagine Gareth on the phone. "Does he play them?" And he said, "Well, his son is making noises here with them." And he said, "Okay, £60." And I bought them. And I played them ever since, actually. I remember I had my one and only competition with a flag. I don't know if it was All Ireland or one of the pre-flags to the All Ireland. But I won anyway, and the whole family won all the different, like a banjo and pipes, which is never heard of. And we won a duet, and my brother won the whistle, and I won the under 18.
Paddy eventually married his Rowsome chanter to the Crowley set, producing an effect which was the basis for his trademark sound, especially the growling E note.
I was playing with Liam Weldon and brother Johnny and and Johnny Flood, and there was 4 of us. But we'd play the odd gig anyway, Liam, Johnny, myself, and the old folk clubs and that. And then my dad came in sometime later, a few years later. And my brothers were in it, some of the Fureys were in it, George was in it, Paul was in it. One week you'd have a football team and the next you might have 2 or 3, that kind of thing. And Slattery's of Capel Street. But all these lads would come in, like Maloney, Matt Malloy, all these people were calling and play a tune with us and that sort of thing. Paddy O'Brien, remember him being there, this was through the 60s.
In the swinging 60s, London's bright lights and vibrant pop explosion felt a world away from the working class streets of Ballyfermot. Paddy Keenan, restless and undecided, was born with a hunger to break free and discover what lay beyond his Dublin horizon.
And then in '67 I shot off for London, for Liverpool actually, and from there to London. And instead of taking the construction route, I took the hippie route and ended up in hippie land, which suited me fine. That was when I was about, maybe 18. I wasn't playing the pipes, no. I tried to pawn those things and get rid of them.
I heard that.
I knew at some time I'd have to get them back, so I went down as far as a half crown, I think, or 2 shillings. No way, man. I'm giving all this, it was a spoof, but giving them facts about pipes belong to a famous character Brown and Guinness, all this sort of shit. No. I knew a guy called Puxon, Gradam Puxon. Yeah, he's now the president of the World Gypsy Council, living in Appleby. He's in his 80s, I'd say at least. But him and his wife was a musician, a singer, songwriter. He had been to Ireland. He had me play in the Gaiety. But he put on this show in the Gaiety. And ever since then, he knew of me from then on. I think I was 19. I was sitting in a subway station, put my hand in my pocket, and I thought I had a Stanley knife in my pocket. Jesus. And I had a piece of cane, and I started paring it, Next thing, there's a hand on my shoulder, a plainclothes cop, who arrests me for a serious, dangerous weapon. Takes me to court and everything. I had to wait the weekend, actually, because the court case was on Monday morning. But Grattan heard of it. He came to the court. But we explained that, you know, that the knife was for making reeds, cutting reeds. And this sort of came over me in the room. And I hadn't had my pipes for Jesus, like 2 years, I'd say. But anyway, it was dismissed. And his wife and himself decided the way to get Paddy back on the pipes and popularise the pipes at the same time is to, and the Beatles were recording or something down, and I think it was John's Lane. They arranged for me to come and meet, introduce the pipes to John Lennon. Later I heard he was really fond of them and had a practice set made. I went to, it was Finchley Park, I went to and stayed in Grattan's house that night with my hippie girlfriend. And I left at about 7 in the morning and ran away from it. I chickened out of it. I think I was very insecure at the time too, with being a half traveller and little education, leaving school at 14.
The long and winding road.
With maturity, Paddy has come to reflect on opportunities missed, carrying a quiet embarrassment even today about turning down a chance to audition with the Beatles. The memory still sparks disbelief and moments of self-doubt, yet he remains eager to set the record straight and share his own side of the story.
To prove my point, I wrote to Gradam, and I asked him, I said, am I dreaming? Is this true? Did this really happen? Because I said, people are not believing me, and I'm not going around preaching it, obviously, I'd be too embarrassed. But he said, oh yeah, he said it did. Well, he sent me an email then with the whole story on it. And I said, do you mind if I put it on Facebook? Just so this person who, you know, we all know, no names, but I said, so, he said, no, not at all, go ahead. So I put it up on Facebook. Yeah, it was true, it did happen. You wouldn't be too fond of talking about stuff like that. You'd feel like an idiot, you know. I mean,
You could have been the fifth
to turn that down, like. So that was up to 69, I think, was their last. It was the last album, probably Abbey Road. Might have seen a piper sitting at the end of the road looking at it. I went to London and I was working in separating eggs. There was only women in this job, yeah. I was the only lad there. And of course they looked after me like I was their own son. Then the next job was in Bolton. And he got a truck driving job, and I got a job in a wool mill. All women again, no guys.
Oh, poor Paddy.
I was really being looked after. I remember we hadn't a penny, man. And I came back to the house one day where we were renting, and I saw this can, and I opened it up, and I had a sandwich. It was kitty cat or something. I swear to God, it tasted great.
Cheers, Paddy, that's cat.
It tasted delicious, honestly. I hadn't a penny. But when I tell you a story, I went out one day and I was walking around the park, and I'm sitting on a seat. I'll never forget it because there was a particular song, I can't think of it now. But anyway, there was this girl come up and sat beside me and was chatting away and wanted to meet me the next day, and I didn't anyway. But I went off through the park and I went into the bushes. Typical Paddy. I went into the bushes, and I swear to God, I was just rooting around like this, and I saw this. Do you remember the old paper spud bags? There was layers of paper, the old brown potato bags.
Oh yes, yeah, for a half.
It wasn't just a single layer of paper. There was
like
probably
a half
three,
hundredweight.
Yeah,
yeah.
3 layers of paper.
That's right.
And there it was sitting in the centre under the bushes, and a ton of change in it. English money, yeah. 2 shillings, sixpences, pennies, half pennies, quarter pennies. There was everything in it, like a whole bag of it. And I took 2 fistfuls of it, put it into my pocket, and I went back to Francie, my uncle, and I said, we're out for the night. So we went drinking that night. Nearly got into trouble too, but anyway, we got back, and I left most of that there. Would you believe that?
Did you go back for it?
No.
Why?
I took a few times, I took a few handfuls of it, and there was man, the thing was that size and it was packed.
Why you not take it away with
I don't know. I can't.
Just
Why
so
did
glad
I
to
not
get
go?
your hands on it.
Why did I not go and introduce the pipes to the lads? Like, I don't know. I just didn't. I didn't.
The genesis of the Bothy Band was unfolding in the early 70s, at a time when traditional Irish music was experiencing a vibrant resurgence, fuelled by the insatiable demand from a new generation of young aficionados. Influential musicians like Tommy Peoples and Matt Malloy, and Donal Lunny, fresh from his groundbreaking success with Planxty, were drawn into this vortex. They sought to create music that honoured the tradition while embracing fresh, new influences, setting the stage for a band that would revolutionise Irish music.
Liam asked me over to Brittany to stand in for Peter Brown with a band I'd been asked to join, 1691.
That's right.
With Tony. Most of the Bothy Band
It was sort of pre-Bothy Band.
Yeah.
I remember that.
There was Tony, there was Matt, there was Tommy Peoples, Triana.
Oh, that's the lineup.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of them, and Peter Brown. Seeing as he was the piper, and I went over to stand in for him because he wasn't feeling too good or whatever. And I remember we stayed in this house, and there was nothing. Just you had a bucket of water for a shower and a dry toilet. You fight with a million flies, and then you go. I went down. I'd only got the clothes I had on me, because when I went over when I did go over with Liam, his knees got bad and he could hardly walk actually. 3 days we were walking, 2 or 3 days, and all I had was a Mars bar, or the price of a Mars bar, I'm not sure. And that was it, and the pipes, nothing else. And whatever happened with the lift, we were supposed to be picked up, we weren't, and what happened. But anyway, we started off hitching, and in the end I had the pipes out the side on the bank, and him with the bower on, and breast written on it. That's where we were going. The only pair of jeans I had, I was after borrowing a pair of baggy trousers off someone. And I was hanging them on this fence. It was an electric fence. There were lads looking out the window, shitting themselves, pissing themselves, laughing at me. And I didn't know what was going on every time I touched it. And they were laughing away, they knew. But I remember Tommy has a photo of us on his book, Tommy Peoples. You might have seen it, I don't know, but we're like three Mexican wild characters from the past, out in the way out west, the three of us. Anyway, from there, I met up with Micheál O'Donnell and Mick Hanley, and they were doing a month's tour. So they asked me if I'd join them for the month, and I did. And I had a wonderful time with them. I was all short-haired and feeling really fit and that, young, of course. And we were, Micheál was only about 21, I was 22. And we travelled around anyway for the month. And when we got back to Ireland, Micheál, myself, and Triana, and Tony McMahon, and Paddy Keenan came later. We were playing gigs around Dublin, around the country already.
The stars were beginning to align for the creation of a new super band.
When Pretty Peg went down the street, some fresh fish for to buy. But the wedding class followed after her, and they kissed her by and by.
And then the Bothy Band developed from there, really. There was three in it.
75, wasn't it?
Paddy Keenan, Tony McMahon was handy to have because he was the producer as well, TV. And Triana and myself, and we decided we'd go down we were going down for a practice. The lads decided to ask Matt along, and so Matt had a good job. He was working with Aer Lingus. He decided he'd come along with us. Then the next one was Donal, and Donal was approached, and Donal said he'd be delighted to, because we all went to May Street. I remember it was number 6, I think it was May Street, to Triana's place to organise this really. And the practice, of course, but the lads, they were. I remember walking up with Donal. He said, "I'm really looking forward to it. It sounds really exciting, blah blah blah." And that's how the Bothy Band really started.
Oh, hi, I rocked her, oh, I rocked her, didn't I rock her well? For a funny old white begrudged me her daughter, I'd knock her into hell with my titty right for the didn't I do, with my titty right for the didn't I.
enjoyable?
Oh
The
God, there was some
performance side of it?
wonderful times and some wild times, some mad times. And
Musically, was it like?
I really enjoyed the musical side of it, yeah. Playing with Matt and the other lads, Tommy, Kevin or Paddy.
Tommy Peoples
and then the backing system. I mean, look, Donal was genius at that, you know, honestly, and he still is, of course.
Did you all get involved in the arrangements? Because the arrangements were very
Somewhat,
fresh.
but I mean, Donal was more involved than he was really, I'd say.
So he'd come in and say, "We're
Yeah,
here's the
well,
way you
what he
do it."
said to me was once, he said, he might give me a harmony piece to play. We'd come up with the tunes between Matt, myself, and whoever the fiddle player was. And he would do the backing stuff, like the counter melody, the harmonies, and stuff like that. But what he said to me, it's not what I write and give to you, it's the way you give it back to me. Because for me, I'd make it my own. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure Matt would do the same, because we'd play it very differently, you know, the phrasing and that sort of thing would be
styles,
different.
different backgrounds.
Yeah.
But who pulled all that together? Was that Donal?
Donal was with the whole arrangement on the backing, on the I call it backing, like the guitar, of course, bouzouki, him and the bouzouki, Trina on the clavinet. They did have a say, of course. I mean, everybody added to it, really. But he was the main person for the backing arrangements, the counter melodies and the harmonies and that sort of thing. Donal was the man, yeah. Very difficult to get three, say, lead musicians who sat on stage and didn't even have to listen into each other. And we spoke to each other near enough through the music. And if Matt did something, I'd answer it. And that's what made it. That's what gelled it. It all gelled together in the end because of that. But we were years playing as well, you know. It came from the roots of it being the parents and for me it was like a language. The musical side of it was great, the arrangements, the whole touring even, and it was fun. Well, I had a shop in Clonakilty. And I bought four floors of a building in Clonakilty. I think it was 20,000 contents as well. And the old lady, she was in her 80s when she died, and she'd left a ton of stuff there, old antiques and stuff. So that's what I did. I took many courses as well. Like one of them was I wanted to do woodwork. I wanted to make pipes at one time, and old Matt Keenan gave me his treadle lathe. And I was the only one he'd allowed to take the top off the chanter with the reed.
Aye, take it
I was there. He wouldn't let anyone touch it, like the reed. And he let me take the top off the chanter for some reason. I was a little older then, but he, gentleman, I loved Matt. But he gave me the treadle lathe, and I gave it to someone. I gave up the idea of making pipes in the end. I ended up with the shop, as I said, and took a few courses, one on, I think it was kind of metal work, plumbing, all these things were taken into engineering of some kind. But there was all kinds of stuff in it, like there was pipe bending. It stood to me in later years with plumbing, in my own place, that is.
In the house.
I ended up wiring the 4 floors of the shop and took 3-phase out the back even. And all I had was the colour code from a punk electrician. And who called himself, what did he call himself? Puke, he called himself. And I remember the owner of the pub saying to him was, listen, whether it was John or whatever, he said, you're going to have to change your name. He said, you're an electrician. If I introduce you to people, I said, punk, puke. He came in a week later and he goes, Bobby, he said, you'll be delighted to hear I've changed my name. What is it now? Vomit. He was some character, that lad. So I got the colour code of him and I did all that. And I had that place for a couple of years, buying, selling, restoring.
The high-octane pace of the 1970s had taken its toll on supergroups like the Bothy Band. Many members sought retreat in solo careers and other passions. Just as he had in the 1960s, Paddy was drawn once more by the allure of distant horizons, this time by the bright lights of America.
I went there, I stayed with a lad, he was doing construction work. I ended up painting houses with him, I ended up demolition, I loved that part of it, and stuff like that. But then, I remember he was down at the bottom of this house and I'm up the ladder and I'm painting and he goes, see that fella up there? He could be on about 500 a night, pointing at me. And I'm thinking, fuck yeah. I was offered it actually, and offered, from Shanachie to do albums, which I never did. But so I came down anyway and I decided, that's it, I'm going to go travelling, playing music and stuff. And I got the price of my house out of it and a few quid and kept my kids and travelled all over the world to see them because they were all over the world at one time.
And were you solo mainly during all this period?
No, well, not very much, no. I'd always have take along one person with me, like a singer, guitarist. And possibly if it was three, it'd be another melody player and a singer guitarist. I'd sitting on my own there. It was difficult, really. I didn't talk much. And I know a lot of musicians that were like that they didn't mind playing, but they didn't want to talk to the audience. They didn't want to be talking, I spent from the mid to late 90s to 2018, I'd say. I spent a lot of that in the air, I had in one airline, and I've travelled most all airlines, but on one alone, United, I travelled 500,000 miles on that alone. To Singapore, to Australia, to New Zealand, to Tasmania, back through Australia to Japan. And this is all in one tour, and then back to the States. And that was just a smidgen of what I was at back then, because there was Borneo, there was Russia, there was all these different, all continents except for Antarctica.
That'll come.
Paddy in reflective mood again, this time on the state of uilleann piping today, and young pipers in particular.
There's some amazing young pipers coming up today. The only thing I find is they have to mature a bit, more to connect with. I believe in mood. I believe in mood playing. I believe in expression of whatever's going on up there. And a lot of the time, it's just like I met a lot of pipers. And in actual fact, when I was younger, I used to have loud pipes, but they were round. They weren't, screechy or ear piercing and that sort of thing. And the young lads, some of the young lads that I knew, they fell in love with this sound, and they even wanted to get the same pipes, which they weren't available at the time, like the Crowley pipes and the Rouse from Sanders. That's what I married together. And some lads, a couple I know, let's say for example, that all the phrasing I do, the technique, the whole lot, they do it, but there's no soul there, there's no connection. It's like automatic. And there's the difference between the feathered pillow, the silver spoon, and the campsite, in your mood and your playing, obviously, if that makes sense.
In 2025, Paddy released a treasured 1960s recording captured by Alan McNeil, featuring the raw sound of the Keenan family alongside Liam Weldon. This priceless document captures Paddy's emergence as a defining voice amongst that era's traditional musicians, cementing his place in the public imagination.
When you're playing, you give everything, and that's what the way Paddy plays, you know, it's lovely style. I think it was Oliver O'Connell said, it was like an Amazonian waterfall. It never stops flowing, you know. And for my money, growing up with him, you know, listening to him playing, you know, he was tremendous piper, you know, and still is, you know. And he loved the pipes, you know, he was crazy about the pipes, you know.
Across the last half-century, both men helped drag uilleann pipes from rarity to recognition. Finbar brought travelling piping into radio, television and folk revival stages worldwide with his family band and as a solo artist. Paddy's explosive and colourful playing with the Bothy Band and also as a solo artist set a new benchmark for power, freedom and virtuosity on the uilleann pipes. Together, Finbar and Paddy stand at the vanguard of today's piping revival, proving that a sound rooted in camps and kitchen sessions could command concert halls and festivals across the world.
Piping's in a healthy state. You're not getting any younger. What do you see the next 10 or 20 years for Paddy Keenan?
I don't really know. I don't plan anything much. But I do think in the next few years that maybe even next year I might just retire from professional playing and enjoy the music whenever, you know, there's a session, that sort of thing. I enjoy that more so than sitting on stage. I might do the odd studio thing or that, you know, maybe an album or that, but I'd like to just quit the I know it's hard because you get so used to that, travel. You know.
As you know, Finbar's pulled back from all that.
That's true, yeah. I was talking to him there recently. He's
I just had a hospital actually, he invited me up. And I had a lovely time there with the families. Finbar, Ceoil, Anya. So I spent 4 days with him. You know, Finbar showed me a room full of gold and platinum discs, like, a whole room full of them, man. And it's amazing the success he's had. And fair play to him, deserves every bit of it. Writing his own stuff. Finbar was a beautiful piper. And still is, on slow airs and stuff, especially. He's a lovely musical voice. He can hold an audience in the palm of his hand for hours on stage, like. But anyway, to be there with him after, because he was away and I was away 30 years in the States. So getting back together, reminiscing, talking about the past, how we used to exchange stuff when my dad wasn't there. And we did learn from each other. He'd do something I didn't know. I'd do something he didn't know. And that's what he said about the double regulator. Although my dad was there, I brought my dad to show him that. And I love him.
Paddy is known for his warmth, generosity, humour and the kindness that he naturally exudes. Beyond the mastery of his craft, it's that spirit that endears him to fellow musicians and listeners alike. As much as the pull of a Bothy Band reunion still lingers, Paddy seems content to slow the pace, to trade a seat in the departure lounge for a seat in the warmth of a quiet session amongst good friends. The long years of travel have lost their charm, but the rattle of a good reel never has. Paddy Keenan's place in the annals of Irish dance music is secure. His creativity on the uilleann pipes has inspired players across generations and continents. Wherever his long, winding road takes him from here, his music continues to set the compass, pointing always towards the heart of the tradition where soul and integrity still matter most.
The Piper's Odyssey, unveiling Paddy Keenan's musical journey and traveller roots, was researched, presented and produced by Tommy Fagan and edited by Alan Byrne. This programme was funded by Commission Naman with the television licence fee.